In this video, I want to talk about one of my absolute favorite techniques, which is fishing a jerkbait. A jerkbait, to me, I have really started to utilize over the last 6-7 years in not only cold water, but in very, very warm water. And it has become, like I said, one of my favorite techniques because a jerkbait not only catches a lot of fish at times, but it can also catch some really big bass. We've seen it win a number of tournaments and things like that. But even if you don't fish tournaments, I have 3 tips for you that I really think can help you to start catching more fish on a jerkbait. Now, real quick before we get into the video, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Fin Fishing. I have USA made sun shirts like the one that you see here. I have a number of different colors. And right now, if you buy one of these USA made sun shirts, you get a free pair of sun gloves. Now, all you got to do is add the shirt to cart, add the gloves to cart, and that will automatically discount at checkout. Now, I'm a little bit low on gloves. So if the size of gloves that you need is not there, no matter what, I'm going to put something free in your package. I have a box full of lures over there, like a Berkeley Nessie, some extra bounty fishes, even some fishing line. So right now until the end of February, if you guys pick up a USA made sun shirt, you're gonna get something for free, whether that is gloves or a new mystery lure of some sort. All right, let's talk about jerkbaits. Now, the thing about a jerkbait, one of the biggest things, and this is not a tip, but I do really want to highly suggest that people start fishing jerkbaits more often, especially when it comes to warmer water fishing, because I think a lot of us think about these baits when it comes to cold water, but man, these things just absolutely have a great action and they catch bass year around. Now, if you notice these 2 jerkbaits that I'm both holding, this is kind of the first tip that I'm about to tell you. Both of these have big bills on them. They have larger bills. And over the last couple of years, I have really started to use primarily jerkbaits that have big bills like this on them. And it's not for getting that bait down deeper. That is actually why these bills exist, because they help to get these baits down deeper. But the thing that I like about them is they actually come through wood cover a lot more efficiently. And I'm talking a lot more efficiently. There have been a number of times where I'm fishing around standing timber or around a brush pile or around any kind of wood cover like a dock, whatever it may be. And simply using a bait that has that bigger bill on it, this is a Berkeley Stunna, it will come through that cover a lot more. And the reason being is that, say my finger here is a branch. When that bait is coming down, if it hits that branch, basically because of that big bill, it will roll that bait over without the hooks. See how far away the hook is? I mean, it's an inch away or so from that. And that allows that bait to come through cover just a lot more effectively. Now, if you look at some of the baits that have a shorter bill, I still use these a lot, but it's more in open water. But when I'm fishing these around brush, they might hit, and then all of a sudden, if you look there, that hook is hanging a lot closer to where the branch is. And so that's why these baits with a shorter bill tend to get hung a little bit more. So if you happen to be fishing around a lot of cover, a lot of wood cover, use those baits that have the bigger bills. Now, with that being said, this actually brings me to my next tip, which is actually in the way that you work these baits. Now, I'm gonna grab my jerkbait rod real quick right here. This is the rod that I typically use. It's a Berkeley, or no, it's not a Berkeley. It's an Arc Tharp Series one-eyed jack rod. But a lot of times when I work a jerkbait, I'm gonna cast that bait out there, and most of the time when I work that bait, I'm working it kind of downward, if that makes sense. When I pop that rod, I'm kind of popping it down like this, or kind of to the side, if anything. So when that jerkbait is going through the water and you're jerking it like that, this bait is primarily going down. Like they'll go side to side as well, but it's primarily going up, down. And what I have found out over the last couple of years, especially with the use of forward-facing sonar, but you can do this whether you have forward-facing sonar or not, is that I like to pop a jerkbait up a lot. And I will do this several times throughout a cast. And when I cast that bait out, I will work it kind of the similar way that I usually do. But about 3 times throughout a cast, I will give that thing a couple of pop upwards. And what I have found is that there are a lot of times when bass are tracking your jerkbait. You have your jerkbait the bass are tracking it, you're popping it all over. And all of a sudden, when you pop that rod up, bam, bam, that rod, it actually will go upwards by a little bit, maybe a foot or two. And sometimes that upwards motion, it can be a huge trigger mechanism to get a bass to go up and hit that bait. So like I said, whether you have forward-facing sonar or not, that is something that I highly suggest that you do, is pop that bait up a couple of times, because I've seen it so many times when that really, really works. Now let's talk about the third thing. And the third thing actually comes down to baits that sink and baits that rise. Now, if you look at most jerkbait packages, for example, this is a Megabass 110. It's gonna say on the package that this is a suspending jerkbait. And the truth about that is that there's really no such thing as a suspending jerkbait. And the reason being is that when they test these out, usually it's in a tank in a facility where they know the exact water temperature, they know all the conditions, they know exactly what size line that they have. And anytime you are fishing a jerkbait out in the open, out in the wild, literally everything that you do with that jerkbait is going to impact it. And a lot of times it's gonna make that bait either sink, or you're gonna have a bait that slowly rises. If the water temperature is slightly different, it's going to cause that bait to go up and down. If you're using, heavier fluorocarbon and you make a long cast, that fluorocarbon will bring that bait down. Monofilament will kind of make the bait stay upwards. So there's a lot of different factors when you're fishing a jerkbait, and most of the time it's going to make that bait slowly sink or slowly rise. Now, why this is important to know is because I have seen days on the water where bass are a little bit picky, and bass actually do want a bait that is either slowly sinking or slowly rising. And honestly, this comes down to doing a lot of experimentation. It really does. Like, you want to go out there, if you have the ability to have a couple of different rods with you and be able to fish kind of both baits that rise, baits that fall, and just try to see what the bass want. That is really, really helpful. Or if you fish with a buddy, have both of you fishing two different things. Now, a couple of scenarios out there on the water that I have seen is when you are fishing in really cold water, for my northern guys, for my Midwestern guys, when we get those ice, we get ice on the water, and when the ice comes off the water and that water temp's really low, like 38 to I'd say about 44 degrees, 45 degrees, I have seen it and I've heard other people say the exact same thing, that a very slowly rising bait can really be the trick. Now, I just heard this from a guy over at Berkeley, and he said that with the Berkeley Stunner, a Berkeley Stunner is designed to fall. He said that if you take the split rings off this bait and you add braided split rings, it will make that bait slowly rise. So that's really, really important to know, because like I said, that difference can make a difference out there on the water. Now, a lot of times when the water temp starts to get into the 50s, I actually like the opposite. I like a bait that slowly sinks, and I'm not saying that this is always true. That's why I'm saying you need to go out there and experiment. But knowing what your bait is doing is very, very important into maybe getting a lot more bites out there on the water. And there's a number of different jerk baits, that, simply changing the hooks, for example, can make that bait do a lot of different things. Like, this is a Megabass 110. I love this jerk bait. And I put Berkeley Fusion 19 number 6 hooks on it. It makes this bait sink. And so you just have to experiment a little bit with the jerk baits and just realize that I hate to overcomplicate things in fishing, but there are a little bit situations where these minor details will make a big difference. And with a jerkbait, rising or sinking, I think can make a big difference. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry that I did it here in the bass boat. My mic went out, and I thought maybe it would deaden the sound a little bit here. But if you guys want to watch my most recent video, you can watch it right here. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys tomorrow.